Hello, 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 and welcome to episode 29 of the Wool Needles Hands Knitting Podcast. My name is Taylor, and I will be your host. This is a podcast primarily about knitting, but we do get up to other fiber-related topics from time to time, such as crochet and hand-dyeing yarn. I'm coming to you from Henderson, Nevada, which is a small suburb of Las Vegas, Nevada, in the southwest United States. This is where I am from and where I live with my husband, Brandon, our 3.5-year-old son, Angus, our 4-month-old son, Ronan, and our big fat house cat, Oscar, who just recently got a haircut and is hanging around me over here as if he'd like to show it off here on the podcast, so he might make an appearance. If you are a new subscriber or viewer of the podcast, thank you so much for stopping by my small little corner of YouTube here at the Wool Needles Hands Fiber Journey channel. It's so nice to have you here. Hopefully there's something that you like and you stick around for a while. If you are a returning viewer or subscriber, thank you so much for coming back time and time again every time I upload something new to the channel. If you enjoy what you see here today or anything that you see on this channel, please don't forget to subscribe. Also, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. That really helps the channel to grow. It spreads the word. It's truly appreciated. And another way to stay on top of all the new uploads that come to the channel, there is a little bell icon right next to the subscribe button. If you click on that, you can be reminded anytime something new gets uploaded to the channel. There are several ways to get in touch and stay connected here at the podcast and the Wool Needles Hands Fiber Journey channel. The first place that you can get in touch with me is via email at woolneedleshands@gmail.com. Anything regarding the podcast, you can send to me there and I will get back to you within 24 hours. If you would like to get in touch with me via snail mail, there is a PO address connected to the podcast. That address is available to you in the About section of the channel. There's also a Ravelry group connected to the podcast. Just go to Ravelry, go to the Groups tab, and type in Wool Needles Hands, a knitting podcast, or Wool Needles Hands, and you should be able to find us that way. It is a bustling group over there with lots of things going on. We have a year-long knit-along going on right now, which I'll talk about in just a little while, and a new knit-along that I'm going to be kind of, not first time announcing, I guess you could say, but we're going to be chatting a little bit more about that today. So definitely check out the Ravelry group to stay connected that way. Wool Needles Hands, a knitting podcast, is on Pinterest now. Like literally this morning, I created a Pinterest account for the podcast, exclusively for the podcast. Everything that's on that Pinterest will be about what you see here on the podcast. The different segments of the podcast will most typically have a board connected to them so that anything that I talk about in the various segments of the podcast, I can link to on Pinterest. It's a really easy way for you to stay visually connected with the things that I mention here on the podcast, especially when it comes to different makers that I mention here on the podcast. There will be a board on the Wool Needles Hands Pinterest page just for the makers that I mentioned on the podcast. So if you see something that you like here on the podcast and you'd like a more visual way of finding that information, head over to Pinterest, go to the makers board or any of the boards that are associated with the segment where you saw the thing that you liked, and that'll make it easier for you to find the links to those particular items or those particular makers. I hope that's clear. I'm not too sure if it's confusing. It is a brand new thing. It's relatively empty right now. I actually only started at episode 26 and started adding items to the boards from episode 26 and on, but I am planning on going back to the previous episodes and adding information and pins from those episodes as well. So bear with me, it is a work in progress. And actually, with that in mind, I did want to throw this out there to anybody who would be willing to help me with the Wool Needles Hands podcast Pinterest page. I am looking for one moderator who can help me to add links to the Pinterest page after the podcasts are uploaded. It's as simple as going through the show notes in the description box, opening up the links, and then adding those links some way or another to the boards on the Pinterest page. I would give you access to the various different Pinterest boards, and you can kind of help me keep that compiled and up to date. There are a lot of things going on over here in my neck of the woods, and so to have somebody that can help moderate the Pinterest page so that we can keep it full and compiled for you guys to keep you connected, that would be really, really helpful. So if you're interested in moderating the Wool Needles Hands podcast Pinterest page, please get in touch with me, woolneedleshands@gmail.com. Let me know if you'd be interested in doing that, and I will get back to you. Thank you so much. You can also find me on Instagram. I am on Instagram as @woolneedleshands. You can also find me on Instagram at fiber.for.the.people. That second Instagram account is the one associated with Fiber for the People, which is my hand-dyed yarn business. The Wool Needles Hands Instagram is all of my knitting and my crochet and my making and things related to the podcast. You can find find all of those on that Instagram account. But fiber.for.the.people is for Fiber for the People, the hand-dyed yarn business. You can learn more about Fiber for the People yarn if you head over to the online shop. The address for that is fiberforthepeople.com. You can also reach the shop by using fiberforthepeopleyarn.com. That was the website address that I have been given previously, but I've just recently purchased fiberforthepeople.com, the domain name, so both of those will work depending on which one you use in the address bar. Fiber for the People yarn, fiberforthepeople.com, either one will work, but eventually down the road it will just transition to fiberforthepeople.com. But it shouldn't mess you up if the previous website was what you were using in the past. I do have some Fiber for the People shop news for you guys, so really quick, let's go ahead and chat about that. There is a shop update coming this Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That is August 4th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm so excited. I'm bringing back some really fun colorways, and in just a minute, I'll show you what's coming to the shop. But first of all, I wanted to mention to you guys that there are advent calendar listings in the shop right now. If you are interested in participating in the first ever Fiber for the People advent calendar, definitely want to go and reserve your calendar. Listings will close on August 31st, but there are a limited number of listings and there aren't a lot left. So if you're interested in the Fiber for the People advent calendar, definitely head over to the shop, fiberforthepeople.com or fiberforthepeopleyarn.com. Click on the advent calendar link at the top and you can purchase your advent calendar that way. There are two separate ways to purchase depending on whether you are international or here in the United States, so keep an eye out for that. But all of the information surrounding the advent calendars is there on the shop. Also, recently I've had several people requesting particular colorways to come back into the shop, asking if I'll have them back in the shop anytime soon because they would like to try to accumulate enough skeins to knit a larger item. And I wanted to let you guys know that though I don't do dyed to order orders in the shop, there is an option for special ordering. So if you have a project in mind that requires 3 skeins or more of one particular colorway on one particular base, you can do that in the shop via special ordering. I will do dyed to orders in those particular cases. So if you're interested in something like that, if there's a colorway that you've seen that you haven't been able to snag enough skeins for a larger garment or some kind of a project like that, never fear, there are options for special ordering. So if you head over to the shop, go to the special ordering link at the top of the page, and that gives you all of the information about how you can do a special order. All of the colorways that I dye and that are in circulation now are available to you via special ordering. So if that's something that you're interested in, I just want to let you know because there have been a few people coming forward with interest in something like that were unaware that I had that option. So I really wanted to let you guys know that there are options for larger orders to be dyed to order. So keep that in mind. Okay, without further ado, here's a look at some of the yummy yarn that's coming to the shop update this Saturday, August 4th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. to take a second before I move on to the regular podcast content to let you guys know that I have received all of your comments regarding the Colorfest Sock Club vlog that I recently uploaded. As many of you know, I did just recently release a first ever for Fiber for the People sock set club called Colorfest, and all the information for that has been mentioned in previous episodes of the podcast. The listings for this particular sock club are completely closed right now. However, one of the things that I decided I wanted to do with this sock set club was to vlog about my process and technique for the colorways that I create for the club. And so I just recently uploaded a 4-part series regarding the first colorway for the Colorfest sock set club. And I'm just completely in awe of the positive feedback I've received about the series, the love for the series that you guys have, and how interested you were in following me on my journey. It means so much to me that it's really difficult for me to express. I've kind of been a little emotional reading over some of the comments that you guys have left for me, both here on YouTube as well as on Instagram. Some of you have contacted me directly personally to let me know how much you enjoyed the series and how inspiring it was. And I've tried my hardest to get back to each person individually. But I want you to know that if you're watching this, your comments were read and shared with members of my family, and they mean so much to me. I truly enjoy sharing here with you on the Wool Needles Hands Fiber Journey channel. And I feel like we're all in it together, and it means so much to me to know that you're enjoying the process as well. So I really want to take a second and thank you for watching, number one, but then taking the time to comment, because that's really important to me. That's what lets us know, we creators on YouTube in this community, that's what's letting us know that you guys are really, that it's worth it, that you guys are really taking it in and enjoying it, and it's providing inspiration, because that's why we do it. We enjoy it so much, and I speak for myself. I enjoy it so much. I enjoy sharing creative process with you, and it makes me so grateful to know that it's providing inspiration. So I thank you guys so much. I feel like I'm getting a little misty, and it's gonna fog up my glasses, and I don't want that, because then with this heat and humidity, it would take forever to clear them up. But just know that I thank you from the bottom of my heart for following me on my journeys that I share here on the channel, and then for letting me know how much it means to you and how much you enjoy it, plain and simple. So that means a lot to me. So I will see you guys again for another series that I will be doing on the next colorway that's going into the Colorfest Sock Set Club. It'll be uploaded onto the channel at the end of August, so I will see you guys again for that as well. But in the meantime, thank you so much. Like I said, from the bottom of my heart, it means everything. We have a knit along going on over here at the Wool Needles Hands podcast. It is the Wool Needles Hands Year of Hats Cal 2018. It is a year-long knit along. We are knitting a new hat every month, and when I say we, I take that with a grain of salt. I am not knitting a new hat every single month. There are several of us that are picking and choosing the months that we are knitting, but every month of the year, we are doing something related to knit hats over here at the Wool Needles Hands podcast. And the month of July has just wrapped up. The day that I'm filming this right now is August 1st. And so it's the beginning of the next month of the knit along, but July just finished. I have a winner for July, and I want to share with you guys the hats that came out of this last month of the knit along, because they were all surrounding the theme of designing your own hat. And you guys, such an inspiring month, such an inspiring chatter and FO thread. The things that you guys came up with, I was just so inspired. It was fantastic. I loved it so much. So what I want to do is share with you guys some of the hats that came out of that finished object thread, and then announce the winner for July, and then I'll chat just a little bit about what's upcoming for August. are so creative and so much fun, and it was just so cool seeing where you guys took these ideas and how your patterns evolved in the chatter thread. Really, really, really cool. Okay, so let's go ahead and announce the winner of the July portion of the Wool Needles Hands Year of Hats Cal 2018. All right, guys, before I announce the winner, I want to remind you of the July prize. The person who wins this portion of the knit along is going to be winning a really adorable needle case and DPN cozy by the lovely, talented Marilitza at Spool Stories. Now, I don't have it in front of me. It is in Ronan's bedroom, which is where I keep a box full of knit along prizes, and he's napping. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to patch in right over here a little clip of me talking about this prize in a previous podcast episode. So, and you can see clearly how adorable it is. Marilitza, I've said it before, your work is marvelous. I love Spool Stories. If you have not checked out Marilitza at Spool Stories, definitely make sure to do it. Her stuff is fantastic. And this needle case and cozy are just lovely. Okay, enough of the banter. Let's go ahead and announce the winner for the July portion of the Wool Needles Hands Year of Hats Knit Along 2018. The winner is Sarah Barca, who is Sexy Legs on Ravelry. Her little icon on Ravelry is a little bunny rabbit, and he's all stretched out like bunny rabbits stretch out with their little back feet kicked out, with a little cotton tail and the cutest little bunny butt. It's stinking adorable. Sarah, congratulations. Now, Sarah's hat is absolutely fabulous. Sarah, I don't know if you plan on publishing that pattern. It's adorable. I love it so much. I would definitely add it to my queue because it's just so lovely. She also chose to knit this hat in Fiber for the People yarn using the Crawdads colorway, as well as what looks to be a mohair fiber in kind of a really beautiful, I want to say like pale teal color. I am telling you guys, these two colors together are just stunning. So Sarah, thank you so much for doing the yarn such justice. But I feel like I need to tell you that she is using Fiber for the People yarn. That's not why I chose her as the winning hat. I chose the hat randomly via my husband, who picked a number between 1 and 36. So it is completely honest. It just so happened that she chose to use Fiber for the People yarn, and I am honored. So Sarah, thank you so much. Congratulations. Your hat is lovely. If you are planning on publishing it, please let me know. I would love to share it, and I would love to knit it. It's gorgeous. Get in touch with me. I actually think, Sarah, that I have your information because you've shopped with Fiber for the People before, so I can get that out to you right away, but you can get in touch with me regardless at woolneedleshands@gmail.com. Okay, guys. August is upon us, and the month of August, in regards to the Wool Needles Hands Year of Hats Knit Along 2018, is the month to get a head start on gift knitting. So we are knitting hats for others for gifts, just as long as it's not for you, as long as it is something that will be a gift for whatever purpose. It doesn't have to be a holiday gift. It can be any gift. This is just your opportunity to get that started. I want to share with you guys my plans, what I'd like to do for this particular portion of the knit along, because I am going to participate in this portion of the knit along. Now, I am on a very strict no more cast on diet for a while, just because it's really important to me to get the whips that I have finished. And I don't have a crazy number of them. I really don't. I was actually looking at my works in progress yesterday, and I was thinking, yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I really don't have very many. It's almost like I have a cardigan, I have a sweater, I have 3 pairs of socks, and a blanket. 2 blankets. No, 3 blankets. Is it getting worse as I mention it? Maybe I should just stop. Well, anyway, what I'm trying to say is that I do plan on participating in the August portion of the knit along because this is a selfless knit. And I feel like if I am going to cast anything on, it ought to be for somebody else, because number 1, it gives me kind of a deadline, and number 2, it's for somebody else. So it's not going to just linger around because it can't. I guess that falls in line with the deadline thing. Not 2 reasons, but 1. And also because this person for whom I will be knitting is very important to me, and I'm not going to mention who it is because I know she watches the podcast, but I'm going to share with you guys my plans because I have some really pretty yarn in my lap that I'm going to use. So I have been smitten over the Constellate hat by Hunter Hammerson for quite some time. I've seen lots of people knitting it. I've seen it on Instagram several times. It's a beautiful, beautiful pattern. I wouldn't go so far as to say it's simple, but it's beautifully textured. but not too complicated looking. And I don't know, I've never actually read the pattern to know how complicated it could be. I just love the texture of the hat. And another thing I really love about this hat, and I'll pop it up right over here, is that though it's heavily textured, it's a texture that will still allow a heavily variegated yarn to shine through. It's not something that one thing will compete with the other. For example, I don't think that the variegation in the yarn is going to take away from the texture. I don't think the texture of the pattern is going to take away from the yarn. I think it's just a really great pattern for the type of yarn that I'm going to share with you guys. So I'm really excited to knit this hat for this special person. So let me share with you the yarn that I'm going to use. This is Fiber for the People yarn. Now, this is not a regular colorway. This is actually a misfit. Yesterday, it was a long, hot, humid day in the dye studio, and I was attempting to recreate a color I've had in the shop previously, and I'm not really sure what happened. But actually, if I'm honest, what happened is I was trying to recreate it using a different technique that was, in my opinion, more efficient. When you try to do that, things don't end up the same. Now, fortunately, this yarn is beautiful, but it's a misfit, and so I decided to sneak it off the shelf for myself for the purposes of using it in a project for this special someone. So this is the yarn, and you guys, it's beautiful. Now, this is on the same base as the yarn I used to knit my squash blossom hat, excuse me. It is my Luxe base. It is a single ply fingering weight yarn. It's 70% superwash merino, 30% silk. It's absolutely gorgeous. It has the sheen like nobody's business. Beautiful. And this, guys, look at this. I'm not typically one to gravitate towards certain purples and pinks. They remind, especially something pastel like this, it reminds me of Easter colors, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not usually my preference, but there's something about it on this beautiful silk merino yarn that is stunning. And also too, I know that the person I'm knitting this for, or for whom I'm knitting this, will love this. Now, it's not only going to be this, it's also going to be, and I think I've been bitten by the mohair, kid silk craze right now when I did my Squash Blossoms hat, because if you've seen it, you'll know, or if you've watched previous episodes, that I was holding a strand of this, not this colorway, but this yarn together with a strand of what is like a mohair lace weight fiber. So what I decided I wanted to do with this was to incorporate this yarn. Now, it might be a little hard to make out any kind of definition, but this is a very soft, and again, I don't have the label for this. I don't know what it is about me and fuzzy yarn, but it's almost like the labels of the fuzzy yarn don't stay on very well, and they fall off in my stash, and then I just decide, well, I'm going to throw it away because it won't be important later when I'm trying to explain it to my podcast viewers what the yarn is, but that seems to be an issue for me. So I'm not 100% on what this is, and I'm looking at it now. I want to say it's a kid silk mohair, but I don't think so, because, and maybe you can tell me, but let's see if it'll focus. It almost has like, it's not, but it almost has like a cotton fluff to it, or like an Angora fluff. Could it be Angora? No, I don't know. But it's super fluffy, and it's not like stringy like mohair is. Like mohair has like long strands of hair. This is more fluffy, and I don't know. I hope I'm not like saying that this is Angora and then, it ends up being something not that beautiful or luxurious. But I know this is something quite luxurious because I almost remember buying this in Big Bear, California at this really adorable yarn shop. And I remember it was pricey, but I knew I was going to use it for something. I don't know. There's a whole story behind it, but I have a feeling that this is something good. But anyway, I thought it would be beautiful paired up with this yarn. Okay, so I'm going to open this up. This is always fun. So here's the yarn. Look at that green patch right there. Holding this with this yarn, I'm going to unravel a little bit of it so I can kind of imagine this together. How do you even unless I knit a swatch, which I don't have time to do that right this moment. Let's see if this even, okay, wait for it. Yeah, I don't think this is working at all. I don't even think that you can tell what I'm talking about. Hold on. All right, bear with me here. Do you see that? Can you even tell? If I had a third hand coming right out of my forehead, that would make this really easy. Yeah, I don't know if you can really tell, but I truly feel like these two fibers together will look beautiful, because what's going to happen is that this milky white, soft, super soft, fuzzy fiber is going to mute down these colors a little bit. And I think that's going to be gorgeous. And I love the colors the way they are now at this, level of saturation. And when you dye on this particular base with this much silk, it always mutes the colors out a little bit, because there's so much more reflection happening on the yarn that that reflection, because of the sheen of the yarn, is making the color seem much less saturated. So it's already like that anyway by itself. But I think that dulling of the sheen with the fuzziness of that fiber, but yet maintaining the drape of that silk, plus just like toning down or muting down the color. I mean, I just think the whole thing together is going to be gorgeous. I may actually knit up a swatch with the two fibers together and post that on Instagram like right away. So those are my plans. Constellate hat, this Misfit colorway, this beautiful questionable colorway that we're not really sure of, but we're assuming it's luxurious because that makes it fancy. This yarn and all of this, these are my plans for my August portion of the knit along. Whatever it is that you guys are planning on doing, share it over on the chatter thread for the knit along. Let people know what it is that you're going to be doing. It's really important to participate in the chatter thread. That's how we build a community, but let us know, what is it that you guys are going to be doing for the knit along? Okay, last piece of news in regards to knit-alongs. There is a new make-along, I guess you could say, coming up September 1st. I've mentioned this on the last 2 podcast episodes, but I'm going to confirm it here. We are going to be starting the Wool Needles Hands Garland Along 2018, and this is plain and simple, and more information is over on Ravelry. This is where we knit or crochet garlands that we can use for the holidays, for decor, for baby rooms. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter how many you do, but we are just creating garlands from September 1st until January 1st. If you celebrate Christmas and you want to come up with completely knitted or crocheted Christmas tree decorations, this is a really great way to get a jump on that, because you could probably between September 1st and January 1st knit or crochet, or both, several different types of garlands that could be used to decorate your Christmas tree. Like, what? I'm definitely going to be doing at least one garland for my Christmas tree. One of them is going to be a granny square garland that I'm creating for my sister-in-law, who is expecting in November, and she's going to put it up in her baby room. I have a few different other ideas, but I'm super excited for this particular make-along. So if you guys are into it, head over to Ravelry. I have made the thread for the Wool Needles Hands Garland Along sticky. The hashtag is hashtag WNH Garland Along 2018. Post on Instagram. I do my very best to see all of them that come through on Instagram, but when you post on Instagram, use that hashtag and then tag me at Wool Needles Hands so that it shows up and so I see it. It's far easier for me to see it that way than to just remember to search the hashtag all the time. So if you can tag me in those posts, I'd really love to be able to see it that way. And this goes for the Year of Hats Cal as well. Tag me in your posts, and that way I can see what you're working on, because I like to share some of that on my own Instagram feed, as long as it's okay with you. I like to share that on the Instagram feed to let people know what's going on and to show them some of the great stuff that you guys are working on. So that's kind of the details about the Garland Along. Let's begin casting on the Wool Needles Hands Garland Along projects on September 1st. So it is iced tea again for me today, because there is really nothing else that sounds more refreshing than a nice glass of iced tea when it is so hot outside. You can tell that it's really, really pale. I used a large mason jar with 2 bags of tea, hot water, and I just let it steep for quite a while, because I was hoping that I could bring the temperature of the water down so that when I added ice, it wouldn't just melt and become all watered down. So I just let it sit on the counter. So I brewed the tea about an hour and a half before starting podcast. Now, what I did with that was I filled this glass all the way up with ice, and then just poured a partial amount of the tea into the glass, stirred it around really quickly, and it actually cooled it down pretty fast without melting all the ice. Topped it off with some more ice, and it's perfect. And this tea is really, really delicious. You guys, this is by a tea brand that I actually wasn't familiar with prior to just recently when I restocked my tea stores that I use for my Fiber for the People orders. I send out a different tea in every order that goes out, and I love kind of hunting down new tea brands to come up with something new to put in your guys' orders, and this was a new one for me. So this is by Clipper. This may be familiar to some of you guys, I'm not sure. I had never heard of it before this, but it is by Clipper, and it says, Clipper Natural, Fair, and Delicious, a bag of our red, white, and U tea. And just look at the little, you know, the art on the front. How adorable is that? Now, the reason I got these was because, number one, I hadn't heard of the brand before, but the boxes that these came in were adorable. They were like these, almost like had a vintage look to them. I'll pop up a picture right up here. This is something that I posted on Instagram of the tea in the boxes, and because I was in love with these boxes and they were so inspiring color-wise as well. But yeah, love the bags. I loved the little boxes, and this tea is delicious. It's definitely a berry flavored tea. It has almost like a passion flower flavor to it, or passion flavor to it. Maybe even like not passion fruit. It's like usually sometimes you go to restaurants, they offer regular iced tea or passion iced tea, unsweetened, and I usually always go for the passion iced tea because for whatever reason I always feel like it's a treat. Oh, you have passion iced tea? Yeah, don't mind if I do. I always just usually drink drab black iced tea. Now, because of this iced tea on the podcast episodes, I've been trying various different kinds of iced tea. But anyway, regardless, that's what this kind of tastes like. If you're in the United States, and I'm not actually sure if this is an international chain of restaurants, I highly doubt it, but if you're in the United States, you may be familiar with the restaurant chain Cheesecake Factory. This is what I'm talking about when I say passion tea. It's the Cheesecake Factory has a passion variety of tea, and I don't know if it's passion fruit or just passion, but it's delicious, and this reminds me a lot of that, if that's something you're even familiar with. A 65-foot hand-crocheted tree grows right now inside the Central Station in Zurich, Switzerland. This humongous art installation is the brainchild of Brazilian conceptual artist Ernesto Neto. Or Neto? Neto. It might be Neto. Ernesto Neto. The art installation is called Gaia Mother Tree. It was inspired by the artist's time working with the Goin, which is an indigenous community in the Amazon in Brazil. Neto is renowned for filling spaces with incredibly large-scale art installations that could be immersive for the viewer, or even that the viewer could almost participate in by walking inside of the art installations or having some kind of a personal connection and physical connection to the art installations. This particular installation is absolutely no exception. If you see this thing, it's monstrous. It's enormous. It's huge. It's this giant crocheted orange and green tree that sprouts out of the middle of the Zurich Central Station. It's absolutely amazing to look at. And I've only seen it in photographs. This is a walk-in textile sculpture, so the audience or the viewers can actually enter the trunk of the tree through its base and be greeted by a very relaxing and soothing kind of canopy of hand-knotted textile. The structure was actually created using a finger crochet technique, and it took 27 people to complete. The giant tree stretches from the floor to the ceiling, and it's counterbalanced by large crocheted branches that go out to either side, and they're actually looped over the crossbars on the ceiling of the Central Station. Something that I thought was really extra special about this was that the branches and the tree itself were weighted by 1,300 pounds of spices. Each of the individual branches had bags hanging from them, and in the bags were various different spices like cumin and black pepper and turmeric, cloves, all of the bags together equaling 1,300 pounds of spices. Not only do you get to enjoy the quiet and relaxing space, but you also have this beautiful sensory experience as well. So I wanted to share that with you guys because not only is it super cool and emphasizes the massive amounts of creativity that are out there, but it also involves one of the amazing fiber arts crafts that we love so much, crochet. I have a half object, you guys! I have finished the first of my Hermione's Everyday Socks, and I'm really excited. I'm always excited to pop something off the needles and to have progress. I love it. But I'm really excited about these socks because they're beautiful, and I love the texture, and I love the colors, and I'm really excited to be able to wear these when the weather cools down. But yeah, these are my Hermione's Everyday Socks. I knit these using Fiber for the People yarn in the Peach Pit colorway, and the heels, cuffs, and toes are in the Mauve and On Up colorway. A really perfect shade of mauve, and I think the two together are absolutely stunning. But look at it, you guys. It's beautiful. Don't pay too close attention to the flaws because they are there. Now, I really love this. Now, one thing that I love about this, surprisingly, that I didn't think, well, I didn't think that I wasn't gonna like it, but I just don't typically like the way it looks when you're working on it, is this 1x1 ribbed cuff here. But seeing it stretched over my sock blocker, it actually looks nice and tidy. So I really like it. And that's really the primary reason why I choose to do a 2x2 is I feel like a 2x2 always just looks nicer, it looks neater. And whenever I start working on a 1x1, I just feel like it looks kind of wonky, and the, you know, the ribs just are kind of like for example right here. You'll see in a second. The ribs right in this area, they're kind of like just not very straight, not nice and neat. And trust me, that is, you know, that's my fault. That's not the 1x1's fault. That's my fault for whatever reason, but for being human, maybe. But I don't know. For whatever reason, I just feel like it looks kind of like maybe not as nice and tidy as a 2x2. I think that when you do a 2x2, even though it's only one more knit and one more purl per rib, I think that having that additional knit stitch or that additional purl stitch causes the two stitches together to almost straighten out and even up and look nicer and neater. Whereas when you're going back and forth, the consistency in your, you know, your stitches is going to be a little bit less because you're going back and forth between two different types of stitches. I don't know. That's just what I'm thinking. Who knows? But that's my issue with 1x1. But it doesn't matter. It's neither here nor there because I really think that this is beautiful. As I said, I almost feel like the texture of the fabric here, you know, emphasizes the variegation in the yarn really nicely. And whenever I show Peach Pit on the podcast, because of the lights, it always makes it look more yellow. It's definitely a true peach pit color. Like the orange is a really pretty peachy orange color. And then so what you're seeing here is a little bit more yellow than what it actually is. But regardless, you can see how nice that variegation in the colorway comes through. I'm really loving the texture, really, really nice. And I appreciate that the texture did not carry over to the bottom of the sock because I feel like that, I don't know. And I know this, my experience with knitting the texture on the bottom. I have a pattern that I had test knit recently. Well, not recently, it was a few months ago. But my cocktail socks, it's a little house sock pattern and it's beautiful and I love it and it will be coming out. I haven't forgot about the cocktail socks. I'm just making sure it fits into a timeline nicely. But anyway, when I designed it in such a way that there was actually, you know, I'll get them for you and I'll share with you what I'm talking about. So when I designed these socks, I actually designed them in such a way that the instep and the arch were going to carry over, that the pattern, the texture was going to carry all the way around. So here is the cocktail sock, and this is one of my, I guess you could call it prototype versions of this sock. There are some changes that I've made to the final pattern, but it still has, and you can see it here, that the texture of the sock is on the instep and on the arch down here. So, or I guess you can call that the sole of the foot. Now, I really love these. I think that they're absolutely beautiful and I'm proud of the work. I think that for, you know, my first and maybe last, you know, original knitwear design, I think it's really quite lovely. But when I wear them around the house sometimes, because we have hard floors, I feel like the texture on the bottom of the foot can be a little bit annoying. It feels a little uncomfortable sometimes. Now, some people probably don't have that issue. They have carpet in their house, and so it's a softer surface to walk on. I'm not sure if that would make a difference. Having done that, I can see why so many sock patterns, such as the Hermione's Everyday sock, don't have the texture on the bottom. They just have a basic stockinette stitch sole, and I think that's smart. Comparing texture on the bottom, no texture on the bottom, no texture on the bottom, texture on the bottom. So that's my thoughts on that. Yeah, but cocktail socks, these will be coming out this fall, by the way. The adjusted pattern, the pattern's completely finished. It's there on my computer, saved, completely finished, with options to texturize the bottom or to not texturize the bottom. It's all ready to go. What am I waiting for? I'm not sure. I think I'm going to knit up a couple more samples because I really do like it and I'd like to have a couple more pairs. But, you know, keep your eyes out. The cocktail socks, they will be a-comin'. Okay, so here are some things that I noticed about this pattern that gave me trouble. And it is really, this is operator error, please. Like, this pattern is lovely. It's just me. The heel of this pattern, of this particular sock, has a garter stitch edge right here. So you can see it right there. So there's this beautiful, like, eye of partridge, and then a garter stitch edge that's happening. And honestly, I'm looking at this now and I'm wondering if I made a pig's ear out of the eye of partridge heel flap. Yeah, I think it's fine. But one thing that kind of got me a little bit was this garter stitch edging. And it's not knitting that, creating that was fine. It's that once I had the heel flap and I needed to start picking up stitches for the gusset of the sock, it was really difficult picking up stitches in the edge that was remaining after doing this garter stitch strip here, because you didn't have a slip stitch. There was no slip stitch on the edging. And typically when you're doing a heel flap, you always have a slip stitch for the edges of your flap so that when you go to pick up stitches for your gusset, it's a nice, clean slip stitch edge. It's easy to pick up stitches in the same place every row, every time. But this particular pattern, it wasn't like that because there wasn't a slip stitch at the end of each of those rows. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I missed that in the pattern, but that was kind of an issue. So what happened was I would have a lot of this. And maybe you've seen this before in your own work, but you see how clearly I picked up a stitch kind of too deep in the heel flap, so it pulled it tight into the orange of the yarn. Like that's, that's just kind of messy, and that is a result of picking up stitches inconsistently down the heel flap. And it doesn't bother me. After I noticed it, it wasn't something I really wanted to go back and fix because this is a sock, it's going to be on my foot. This part of the sock is not going to be hugely noticeable. These aren't my, fancy going out at night socks or anything like that, so I'm not too concerned. But it happens, and I feel like had I incorporated a slip stitch, I wouldn't have had that problem because I would have had a nice clean edge. And I think honestly that was like my only issue with it, really, was just that little strip, I guess. And look at this. I mean, doesn't it look kind of like maybe I have my eye of partridge going on right over here, and then something changes right here. Now, is that where oh, wait a minute, that might have been where I started decreasing. I don't know. So I have the eye of partridge happening here, and it kind of just looks like that. Whatever that texture is not the same. Oh my gosh, I have no idea. I could swear I was doing everything the way the pattern said, but it doesn't matter because they're really beautiful. I really, really love the socks, you guys. They're gorgeous. And this yarn, I know I say this a lot, I'm biased, but I truly, truly love the yarn. And there's something about, especially this colorway. He was just at the door, pawing at the door, wanting to come in and see what was going on. You can tell, I don't know if you've seen Oscar before, you will definitely be able to tell, but he's had a haircut recently, and it makes him so happy. He loves getting his little lion cut, because in the summertime, can you imagine what that would be like in the summertime when it gets up to like 110 with like 40% humidity, wearing a big fur coat like that, even inside? I don't know how you do it, Oscar, but yeah, he likes this. It's really nice. All right, you ready to get down? Okay. Gotta decatify myself. Okay, so my Hermione socks are halfway finished. I haven't cast it on to the second sock yet. I'm actually going to do that today because I finished these yesterday morning and I haven't even blocked them yet. So I'm going to be casting on to my second sock today using the Moving On Up. This is what's left of my mini for the heels, cuffs, and toes of my next one. So that will be casted on later today. I'll have the joy of casting on something new, even though it won't be a new project. Okay, so before we move on, I have to show you guys what I made literally 15 minutes before I sat down to podcast. Previously, I stored all of my circular needles in our previous place of residence on individual little pegs with the needle sizes. It's a grand idea, on paper, but then when you go to actually doing that, the needles are falling off, or you just don't feel like having to put them in the right spots every time. It's it's just one of those things. It's never, you know, as effective as you think it's going to be. Anyway, what I have to show you right here is actually quite nice. So my needles hang really close to where our bathroom is, and every time I walk by, I feel like I always catch, you know, the circular needles hanging out of this particular pocket as I'm walking by. And so finally, I decided I was gonna, you know, fix that, because what inspired me to make the change was we had just, you know, gotten to the point of having an empty toilet paper roll. Too much information? Maybe, but moving on. So I saw the empty toilet paper roll and I thought this is gonna be the solution. So I started taking my circular needles and you know, feeding them through the toilet paper roll, but they would come out because the toilet paper roll's too, you know, open. They'd start sliding out, and I have a lot of circular needles. So I decided that I'm gonna continue to use the toilet paper roll for now because I think it's something that could work, but I'm gonna make some modifications. So this is what I came up with. Ta-da! Look at that work of ingenuity. I probably have created something that's been created 1,000 times before, but this is just my solution for my overwhelmingly messy circular needle storage. Now this probably looks like a hot mess, probably, but it's actually nice and neat. And if I want one of these needles, I can pull it out and then it's really easy to feed it back in. Oh, I need a needle for a new project that I'm not allowed to cast on. Pull out the needle. Here it comes. There it is. Oh, we aren't going to cast anything new on. Okay, so put the needle back just like that. So this is that toilet paper roll that I was talking about. You can see that. It's a toilet paper roll. I folded it over at the top and stapled it down so that it would hold, kind of hug the needle cables without letting them slip through. And then I just lined it with this really cool neon pink duct tape to make it a little bit more fancy than a stapled toilet paper roll. Oh my god, you guys, this is ridiculous. But what's great about this is it works. I can jangle this around. You see that? I can turn it this way. I can turn it this way. Nothing's falling out. You guys, you're welcome. Probably been done before. The more you know. Alright guys, that's all I have time for today. Thank you so much for joining me here. As always, thank you so much for coming and watching all of the things that are uploaded here on the Wool Needles Hands of Fiber Journey channel. Your participation and your enjoyment means so much to me. It's what keeps this going. It's what keeps me motivated to share, and I truly, truly appreciate it. So thank you so much. Don't forget, if you haven't already done it, give this video a thumbs up if you like what you see. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell icon so that you can be notified anytime something new pops up. Keep an eye out for not only episode 30 coming in 2 weeks, but every week there's new content uploaded to the channel, tips from the dyeing studio, the Wool Needles Hands vlog, and at the end of August, you can look forward to the next vlog series on the next colorway coming for the Fiber for the People Colorfest Sock Set Club. And don't forget, if you haven't had a chance to watch the previous vlog series on the Colorfest Sock Set Club, definitely check it out. Alright guys, thank you so much. Until next time for episode 30 of the podcast, happy knitting, happy whatever it is that you're doing. Have a lovely weekend. Don't forget to hit up the Fiber for the People shop update on Saturday. I will see you guys next time. Bye!